You're listening to the Ask Drone U podcast. You ask, we answer your drone questions. Whether you're here to turn your passion into profit or you simply fly for fun, we're a community of learners and teachers who aspire to achieve greatness. We are
Drone U.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode about Remote ID. Shocker. But when we live in a world where everyone is following clickbait and not taking the time to actually really learn about the problems of this proposed rule, well, then we got to take it upon ourselves to fight to educate for your right to fly. So today's question is more so focused on, well, what can you do after you have commented? Actually, in fact, I was having a conversation before we play the question. I was having a conversation with an investigator today. Not investigating us, he's one of our friends. And with this investigator, he was saying, you know, this whole remote ID is just such a sham. And I just really don't think people are really thinking about the practical application of UAS in the field. And he's like, look, I was just out at XYZ flying a crash, and my phone is saying that I have service, but I can't download the offline map to draw my double grid over so that he can map the area. And even though it's showing that he has service, he's not actually getting a connection. So with this proposed remote ID, is it going to be an option then to say, okay, broadcast only? Or is the way the proposed rule is written, it's this would inhibit the motors from turning on and taking off? But what if we're mid-air and all of a sudden there's a freaking solar flare and cell service gets cut to a megabyte per second and you're not able to log into some remote USS ID and you're not able to do these things? Do you really want your flight controller tied to the reliability of a standard internet connection the way that it is right now? And I think that most people would say no. This is why we've been saying, look, FAA, we know DHS wrote this proposal. It's very clear because there's no risk-based performance language. Also, you had really great recommendations from the ARC committee about how to do remote ID. Remote ID is, in other terms, as a driver, called a license plate system. And most drones that we have today already broadcast their position and telemetry and the distance to the remote, whether it's DJI or whether it's even a freaking Pixhawk or a PX4 like you see in the Autel drones. There is a way to see who is flying. And with, when Elaine Chow goes out and she's like, we don't know who's flying these drones. It's like, do you really think we're this stupid, lady? Like, really? You think you're funny? Anyway, Elaine Chow, unfortunately, we do not believe your BS that you put on the news because our generation is smart enough to know that the news is BS. But that being said, when we have an existing license plate system that already works for drivers, that gives drivers privacy, that's worked for over 100 years, why not implement the same thing with drones? But, we're talking about these problems. We wrote a comment guide that hits the highest, most important problems first, because if we get rid of those, a lot of other ducks fall in a row, like the idea for internet-based connectivity to drones, which actually, Rob, since I'm not going to do it, I'm just going to tell you that I thought about doing this and maybe you'll be more proud of me. But I wanted to, the FAA had a data leak about 2 years ago. I don't know if you remember because I got the data. But long story short is the FAA had a data leak where everyone who had participated in the IPP process, their personal contact information was leaked from the FAA in an email. And I wanted to send an email out to all of those people in that list and say, How can we trust the FAA to retain the security of pilot location and information, drone location and information over millions of drones across the United States on a secure quote unquote system? How can we trust them to do this when I sent you this email with your email address in it from a data leak from the FAA 2 years ago? You still trust them? I don't. I don't trust most companies' ability to keep data private. I mean, I know what we go through here to do that. It's not an easy task. But when you don't have experienced pilots who have flown practically and understand the safety issues, the real life limitations of trying to do some of these things, you've got the blind leading the blind, and ultimately it's just going to be a complete free-for-all of non-compliance, which I really think is going to hurt our industry even further than, well, not further than the proposed remote ID, but would really hurt us. So the question has come up, what can we do beyond just commenting that we don't want internet-based remote ID, that we don't want to broadcast pilot location, that we want to allow hobbyists and recreational pilots to fly in Class G, and maybe they notify through LANC in controlled airspace like they're doing? And there has to be a way for RC planes and modelers to continue flying outside of FRIAs. Why can't they just fly in Class G airspace? Maybe even we enact LANC in Class G airspace, like some of the suggestions that have come out from other people. The issue is, Rob, what do we do after we comment?
Hi, Paul. Hi, Rob. My name is Jared Avilez. I'm coming to you from Oklahoma. Hey, I had a specific question on the newly proposed remote ID rules. I know you guys have put a lot of information out about that already, so thank you. My specific question is, what more can we be doing as a drone community? For instance, I have already, written my public comment, and I utilized your resources and guide to help me do that, craft my personal message. I have crafted personal emails and phone calls to my state legislator, and I'm also nudging our Facebook community here in Oklahoma on the Facebook page OKC Drones. I'm constantly nudging people on there to make sure they're taking action. Beyond those three things, what more can we be doing as a drone community? And so that's my specific question. I love everything that you guys are doing. I hope as a community we can make, lemonade out of lemons, and maybe we become a stronger fighting force for new rules in the future. And so just want to see if you guys had any more specifics on what more we could be doing. Thanks so much, guys, and take care.
Thank you, Jared. Really appreciate the thought. Actually, it sounds like you are doing a ton. So if
Thank you.
If the masses are approaching it with the seriousness that you are, that makes me feel a lot better about where this is going. But I know you have a lot to say on this, Paul, but I would start by simply saying be very educated and read on your own, and certainly talk amongst people that you trust to have done the same, because it is always helpful to sort of bounce ideas and interpretations off of other people who are digging in the way that you're digging. And so, like anything, surround yourself with like-minded people who have the same serious approach to it that you do. And then what do you do with that knowledge?
Well, I think that there's a couple things, and I think that you're definitely making some great points, but it really comes down to it's time to start educating our clients and some of the bigger players in the space to make sure that they understand what the future looks like. You have to explain the transformation to them. Your operations look like this now. What will they look like after the proposed remote ID? That being said, you can protest. You've got to educate your clients, but also try to get industry stakeholders, to comment. Now, what's one great way that you can reach out to all sorts of businesses really, really, really fast? I think you need to get with your local newspaper and talk about how your drone business is going to be shut down by the proposed regulations, that you won't be able to do what you typically do under the proposed regulations, and talk about the greater good. This is something that we talk about in entrepreneurial school. For me, it was Anderson School of Management. And I actually didn't even go to the business school. I just took a couple random classes. So sorry, Anderson graduate next to me. But long story short is the greater good. How is remote ID going to affect the community? What is the greater good that's being threatened? The greater good that's being threatened is STEM education. We've had the last few years, we have made such huge accomplishments in enticing, engaging, and exciting kids in STEM education with drones. And these kids won't be able to build these drones and fly them at their schools anymore under proposed remote ID. How is that going to hurt the future of our job market? This is why I wish Trump would listen to this, because like everything he pushes, economy, jobs, I'm like, you're literally murdering an industry in the name of security. When can we get off of this damn train that it's either white or black? We can be creative. You can have security and also maintain the industry. It's really not that hard. You just have to stop listening to the Beltway bandits who are being paid $500,000 a year to literally pester the crap out of you and give you bad information. It's really troubling. I really hope the FAA listens. I believe that they will. If they don't, you're going to see a whole new level of non-compliance. And I'm not saying that because of the actions that I am going to purport.
Even encourage.
I am saying that based off of every single person I've talked to about remote ID, and I've said, what does non-compliance look like? I got one very interesting response this morning. First interesting response I've ever heard. And we talked about it in the last show. And that is, Paul, you got to remember, dude, FAA, they don't control aviation. They like to think that they do, but they don't. You know who controls it? Insurance. Because at the end of the day, no one wants to be sued where they lose everything and their wife divorces them because they didn't think about how to protect themselves, etc. So while there may be non-compliance, we're putting ourselves in a very, very, very troubling position if we're not able to, quote unquote, fly under FAA guidelines. You know what? This gives me an idea, Rob. We should start an insurance company. We will insure any drone not under FAA guidelines, but rather the safety guidelines that we make. Since everyone is asking us anyway, because of how many people we've trained, the mass amount of data that we have, and what we've learned in training these people, right? Maybe we're onto something. Brandon, if I don't get a phone call from you and Skywatch shortly, I'm going to start moving in my own direction, all right? So the only thing is I got to figure out how to get like $15 million to cover potential claims. That's going to be the problem.
Need them reserves.
Yeah. So anyway, wow, that could be the way that we like nix this problem. Like, no, FAA, no. We're not giving up our privacy. We're not going to cause more conflict, and we're not going to trust you with our information so that we can be further regulated. So we're just going to create an insurance company that allows us to get insurance, and we're still going to do our jobs because 90% of the people that hire us anyway don't even know where to read Part 107, let alone that it exists.
Just to clarify, I thought that they will have our information regardless, even through the network version, through the...
I think you're confusing network and broadcast.
I'm sorry, the broadcast version.
It's not possible for them to have all the information from broadcast because broadcast is only emitting a certain distance. Okay. So unless that there are receivers set up all over the area to receive that and then aggregate that data, that would be impossible. Under the network scenario, though, they're aggregating that data.
The internet.
That's the internet.
Right. Yeah, I just misused the term. So, okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to understand because, like, for example, if we're by an airport, they can know who we are if we're registered and everything now, right?
Or unregistered.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they're actually going after people. If you're within 5 miles of an airport, the airport can see who you are, where you are right now.
Right.
So that's why when Elaine Chow's like, we can't see what drones are out there, it's like, so hold on a second. You're the Secretary of Transportation for the United States government, and you're not familiar with air traffic control protocols for the nation's and the world's safest airspace? Sounds like you're lying to me, or you're completely unqualified for your position. I don't know. Either way, I don't like you. You know what? If Miss Elaine Chow hears this, I challenge you to be a better human. I challenge you to research more, and I challenge you to put yourselves in the shoes and the perspective of the drone pilot.
Right on.
And not try to kill an industry because you're afraid of two people who may have nefarious intentions. I mean, fire's dangerous, so should we ban all lighters? Well, hold on. I got another argument that someone sent to me yesterday. You remember the Boston Marathon? Mm-hmm. So should we ban all Instapots now? Should they all be internet connected? So that, I mean, I'm asking a serious question. It's a security threat, right? Pressure cookers, right? Instapot, number one selling, Christmas item. So, okay.
They're very handy.
They are very handy. But if the government's afraid of how you're going to use it, should they now all be internet connected?
Yes. No. I don't know. I'm so confused.
I'm about to walk out of here, dude. No.
Oh, okay. Right on. So, okay, so the answer to Jared's question, perhaps to go beyond what he's asked for, is to maybe branch out into clients and asking
educate your clients
to do
what
stuff.
Does the transformation look like if proposed remote ID goes in effect as is. And remember, the larger the industry players, the more impact that we have. The issue is because the FAA will not give us an extension, even though they have extended themselves 3 times. I think it's a pointed strategy because most corporate entities take 2 months just to be able to say, this is what we're going to say.
But isn't a 60-day comment period a pretty
standard, yes.
Standard comment period?
It is.
It kind of fits into how things typically work.
Do you like double standards, Rob?
I hate double standards.
So if the FAA delays a year or two and it's okay, but they won't give us a 60-day extension, in your mind, is that okay?
No.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
But that's life.
Sorry for putting you on the spot. I know you're
I'm not on
right
the spot.
Now.
It's a pretty easy answer. I mean, I think it's straightforward, and yeah, that's the way our world works, like it or not. But that doesn't mean we stay quiet to it.
That's exactly right. That means that we, like the colonialists living in Virginia, where I grew up, decided that one day, you know what, it's time to gain some independence from all this control and people telling us what to do when they don't know what we're even doing, and they're not giving us the benefit of the doubt to make those decisions. Then it's time that we stand up and say, you know what, no.
We could go on such a tangent, because part of our I don't want to get...
no, just say it. Just say it in one sentence.
I don't want to philosophize, because unfortunately there's a large subsection or a large section of our society who tends to lean towards giving them more power, whether they know it or not, and them being the government, because the government gives and the people take, and therefore the government has power. And they're okay with that because they're taking and they're getting. And so it's like we're fighting against ourselves in some respect when it comes to this kind of stuff, because we're part of a machine that makes the government bigger and gives it power, and then we give it more power because it gives back to people who will take.
It's kind of like Facebook. Everyone knows Facebook is a huge security problem and breach, but people keep posting on Facebook and refining their psychological profile.
Yeah, and we take advantage of that.
So maybe we're part of the problem. But
of course we are.
But then if we eliminate that, then we have no way to survive as a business, and thus... But, okay, so let me take this. Okay. Anyone who thinks that the government giving you things is a good idea, I would ask them this question: what are you giving up in return? And are you sure that's the only thing you're giving up?
Well, yeah, so then if we start going down that path too far, we have to be very careful, because we don't want to be... we don't want to lack compassion, and there are people that need help, and so we need to make sure we understand that. But I think the vast majority of people who get probably could figure out a way to get out from under that help, but choose not to because it's too easy to continue to accept.
True.
But I'm way going down a road that I probably shouldn't.
So the last thing that someone can do when they, if they're done with their comment, is you can write your congressman or woman. I think it's really important. HelpSaveOurHobby.com actually set up a link for thought.co on tips for writing effective letters to Congress.
Can we share that link?
We sure can. It's on saveourhobby.com.
Oh.
And then you can even find your representative. Very simple. So who's our representative at Drone U headquarters? Deborah Holland. All right, Deborah, let's have a little chat here. I'm going to tweet Miss Holland. Miss Holland, Here we go. Deborah Holland. What is your plan to stand up for New Mexico businesses
Help.
that would disappear if at FAA news proposed remote ID goes into effect? Are you ready? How do you expect to get reelected if half of our aviation infrastructure and security and secure jobs are how do you expect to get reelected if half our aviation infrastructure and security industries lose? So I'm doing this on the show because this, again, what can you do? Tweet at them. Deborah Holland, what is your plan to stand up for, I'm just going to say NM businesses that would disappear if FAA news proposed remote ID goes into, is it effect with an A or effect? It would be E, right? Into
I think it's
effect.
E, because A is a verb, and that's not a verb in that use.
So how do you expect to get reelected if half of our aviation, infrastructure, and security agencies lose, just 1-0, a large portion of their workforce? And then I'm just going to tag the local news because, hey, why not? That'll make it a little more fun. All right, tweeting. All right, Deborah Holland, let's see what you say. I hope I hope that you respond. I hope that you care. I hope that you even pretend to care. Because here in New Mexico, we have one thing that very few other states have when it comes to flying drones, Rob. And that's beautiful weather. On this bombshell, that's going to do it for us today. To answer his question and quickly recap, after you comment, reach out to your congressman or woman, man or ma'am, and make sure that you write an effective article or an effective paper to explain your personal story of how remote ID will affect you and your business if it is enacted as proposed. I would also not be afraid to bring up the whole privacy intrusion issue with cellularly connected data, showcasing pilots' position to the public, let alone the propensity for that to be hacked. Frankly, long and the short of it is, I'm going to be watching which congressmen and women stand up for us, and then try to use our platform to promote those people who make a difference, who care about the people that they do represent. So anyway, that being said, after you comment, after you reach out to your congressman or woman, educate your clients. I would have a free lunch or something, bring them all in, let them know how remote ID is a potential problem, why you need their help. Explain that the industry really needs everyone to stand up because the FAA has been put in between a rock and a hard place when it comes to remote ID. So anyway, please get out there. Get out there. The fight is not over yet. In fact, it's time to warm up, guys. And that's going to do it for me today. That's all I have, Rob.
This has been Ask Drone U.